What's up everybody? My name is Nolan Govea, or Professor G as my students know me. Today I'm going to go over the 3 investments that I'll be making forever, and I'm not going to waste your time, so I'm going to get right to it. Because the chicken wing prices have doubled since the pandemic began, and ain't nobody got time for that. The first investment is in the stock market, and I have 3 particular investments that I'm very high on, but there can only be one in this specific asset class that I'm going to pick. The first runner-up is Berkshire Hathaway. This is one of my favorite companies by far, and it's one that I am very heavily invested in. It's the company that Warren Buffett owns, and it's just a Goliath in the world of business. They own Geico, See's Candy, Dairy Queen, and more. Some investors look for value and then purchase shares of a company that fit their criteria. Berkshire Hathaway takes a similar approach, however, instead of buying a few shares of a company's stock, it buys the whole company. After applying that investment strategy for decades, Berkshire Hathaway became the massive global conglomerate that we know today. Warren Buffett is one of my idols, and I just follow his investing strategy to a T with all the things that I do, and it's worked out really well for me. Berkshire Hathaway stock back in 1980 was $275 per share. Today, it's over $400,000 per share. Now, I wish I could own one of the Class A stocks, but I own a bunch of the Class B stocks, and those have had awesome growth as well. The Class B shares are around $275 today. I'll definitely be investing in this company, but it's not my number one in this asset class. The next runner-up is Apple. Apple is obviously an awesome company, $2 trillion valuation. Whenever I look at companies to invest in, I look for things outside of the numbers specifically though. Things like how sticky are their customers, which means how much do their customers just love the brand itself. And if you've ever watched somebody get into a fight over the fact that the iPhone is way better than any other type of phone, you know that Apple people are just Apple people, and they're going to have everything Apple. The company Apple also spends a lot on research and development and innovation, and so I look for that because long term things don't stay the same. Obviously Apple's a great company. It's one that I'm invested in and will continue to invest in, but it's not the number one in this asset class. As far as the stock market, my number one pick is going to be an ETF that tracks the S&P 500. Surprise! Now I know that you probably already knew that, especially if you've been following this channel for any period of time or know me. The S&P 500 is something that I truly believe in. I also 100% believe that if you only made one investment overall in anything, the S&P 500 could be that one investment and you'd be totally fine. It has a track record of over 10% appreciation on average every year for over 100 years. The S&P 500 is an index that invests in and tracks the 500 biggest companies by market cap in the United States, and so it's well diversified because it's not only companies in technology or medical or things like that, it's invested all over the place. The ETF that I like best is the Vanguard S&P 500 ETF, which is VOO, V-O-O, and I made a couple of good videos on that specifically, and so I'll link them in the description below so that you can do further research there. Some other ETFs though are the iShares S&P 500 Index ETF, IVV, the Spider S&P 500, SPY. Do some more research, watch more of my videos, and I'm sure you're gonna love that investment long term. The next asset class that I'll be invested in forever and that I think has a long way to grow and so can make you a lot of money is cryptocurrency. Now in the world of cryptocurrency, there's so many different coins out there. There's so much hype, especially with NFTs and DeFi and all these other projects, but there's a clear number one for me and it's not even close. And that number one is Bitcoin. Now I know that that's a boring take or whatever, especially since it currently is the number one coin and is the most valuable by far, but let me explain why this is going to be something that I'm going to invest in forever and hold as an investment forever. When I learned about Bitcoin back in 2018, I researched it for months before I did anything. Then in 2019, I bought some. I bought about 0.20 of a Bitcoin, so 20% of one Bitcoin, for about $700. Today, 3 years later, that little piece of my investment is worth over $4,000. More than just the money itself or the investment or what the numbers say, is just the idea behind Bitcoin. Back in the day when it was normal and everybody went to bookstores to buy books, it would be a crazy idea for you to say, I would rather just get a book sent to my doorstep rather than have to go to the bookstore to look at it. Even more crazy than that would be somebody investing in a business that said, I'm going to provide that type of service to people, but those that did invest in that idea and then held on to their investment through that company learning what their technology actually was and how they could utilize it for far more than just books, those people became very, very rich. That company was Amazon, and I believe that Bitcoin is going to go through that same exact type of scenario. And when everyone figures out what this technology can actually be used for, Bitcoin is going to be very valuable and those that hold it are going to be very rich. Our banking system is corrupt and outdated. They charge fees to those who have the least amount of money, and they keep all the power themselves for things we can definitely do ourselves if given the chance. Bitcoin is the next iteration of not only money itself, but the whole monetary system that's completely broken. My favorite resource for this specific asset of Bitcoin is this book right here. I just very much value good research, unbiased research where it's just telling you the facts, and there's really not a lot of good stuff out there on cryptocurrency and specifically on Bitcoin. It's a lot of opinions. So this book right here is it for me. Many people think of Bitcoin as just some type of investment, but it's far more important to understand it first as a technology. As a technology, Bitcoin is as world-changing as the internet. This book, Bitcoin Evangelism, is a tremendous resource to fundamentally understand Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies as a technology in layman's terms. This book takes seemingly complex topics and distills them down into their simplest form so that this information is accessible to everyone, no matter what their technical background is. Once we understand Bitcoin for its revolutionary technical components, we can begin to look at it as an investable asset with high conviction. The link to easily go buy this on Amazon will be down in my description. After you've researched Bitcoin and you understand why I picked this as an investment that I'll be investing forever, and you decide you want to jump in, check out the couple videos that I'll have in my description as well, along with the link down in the description that if you click that link and go to Coinbase, you'll get $10 in free Bitcoin and I'll get $10 in free Bitcoin. All right, the last asset, number 3, is real estate. On its own, real estate offers cash flow, tax breaks, equity building, competitive risk-adjusted returns, and a hedge against inflation, which we know a little bit about these days. The average rate of appreciation in California came in at 6.77% annually over the last 39 years. So the property itself is going to be worth more in 5 years than today, most likely. But then if you rent out that property, then someone is paying the mortgage and the property is worth more. So when you go to sell it, you'll be making much more money than what you bought it for. And if you never sell, that might actually be better, because as time goes on and inflation keeps going up, rents increase as well. So as long as you got a fixed rate interest rate, your payment, your mortgage payment every single month will stay the same as rents get higher. For example, if you bought a house in the year 2000 for about $250,000, the mortgage on that was probably around $2,000 a month. If you had somebody rent that out, the rent was probably about $2,000, and so they were paying the mortgage. But now in 2022, the rent on that would be something like $3,500 or $4,000 a month, but you're still paying a $2,000 mortgage, which means that you're making cash flow of $1,500 to $2,000 every single month. Not to mention the fact that over the 20 years, the house probably more than doubled. And so now you're making money in the equity that you own in the house, and you're making money in the equity that the renters are paying down to pay down your mortgage, and you're making money on the cash flow every single month. Now, just like Bitcoin, real estate is a scarce asset. There's only so much land. So it's important that you buy land and buy houses, especially in cities where people are going to continue to work or continue to want to live in. There's so much good information on how to get into real estate, but my favorite is to look at biggerpockets.com. They have a cool podcast. They have a lot of good resources on Instagram and things like that. So that's who I'd use for that resource. My 3 investments are the S&P 500, Bitcoin, and real estate. What are yours?